to be in the company of all the young leaders and young thinkers in the industry. I would just be talking about some numbers, some trends which are important for us to focus on. The real estate sector overall has gone through phenomenal transformation in the past at least 30-40 years. When we talk about youth, around 30 years ago it was mostly associated with Lala companies. There were very restricted guidelines. Banks would not lend to the sector. From there to now, of course, we still deal with family setups, but they become extremely professional. Banks and NBFCs have very clear guidelines that they want to get exposed to this sector. You have alternate investment funds who are deploying 70,000-80,000 crores cumulatively over the last couple of years. And all of this gives a lot of confidence to foreign investors. Foreign investors, there's one thing that we forget, that our own resilience and our own strength attracts more capital and more interest from our overseas. So if we are strong enough, that impresses foreign investors. I was in fact in a conference in Hong Kong last week where I met the leaders of some of the big private equity guys, and they said that the reason why we want to invest in India is because you have a very strong domestic base. And that means you have strong demand, but also the fact that you have a very strong banking system, NBFCs, domestic private equity funds who would be willing to step in as and when these investors want an exit.
Now I would like to introduce you all to our panelists up on stage. First, we would like to welcome up on stage Mr. Mudassir Zaidi, Executive Director, North, Knight Frank, India. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's a senior leader at Knight Frank, India with over 20 years in real estate, head the North India region, leading 60 exports and driving landmark land transaction for marquee clients across the NCR and beyond. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Also, I would like to call our next panelist up on stage who just recently entered. We would like to welcome Dr. Ananta Raghuvanshi, who is here with us, Founder-Chairperson of NAREDCO, Mahi. I would like to request her to please join our panelists up on stage. Well, let us all talk about her, a PhD, MRICS, and a popular TED speaker. She is a distinguished real estate leader with 25 years of experience and over 100 project launches, and who has founder-chairperson of NAREDCO Mahi, champions women's leadership and industry transformation nationwide. Welcome, ma'am, up on stage. Also, I would like to welcome Mr. Samir Jasuja, founder and CEO of PropEquity. We would like to welcome him up on stage. He is a first-generation entrepreneur with 25 plus years of expertise, leading India's largest real estate data platform, covering 1.7 lakh projects across 44 cities and 57,000 plus developers. Welcome, Samir sir, up on stage. And the final panelists, we would like to welcome Mr. Venkatrao, RERA and Corporate Advisory and Guidance Expert. We already know him that he is actually popular as the RERA expert. Let me tell you everyone, he is the founder and managing partner of Integrate Law Offices, brings his legal expertise as the advisor at the Uttar Pradesh Real Estate Regulatory Authority. Welcome, sir, up on stage. Now, we have met the panelists. I want everyone to please give a big round of applause to all the panelists. This is going to be the first session of the day, so we have to put more energy. And if you really need that kind of motivation, so let me tell you everyone, I have a right name to call, because now I would like to welcome our moderator, who is very popular. Let's welcome Miss Namrata, an award-winning journalist, author, podcaster with over 25 years of experience, has chronicled India's property landscape through roles at the leading media houses, shaping real estate narratives at Magic Brace, ST Media and Business Standard. Welcome, Namrata, up on stage. So please, I want you to please join. By the way, we didn't plan the dress code, but we are actually vibing together. So what do you know about that?
Thank you, Ekta, for that stellar introduction. It's a pleasure to be here this August panel, and what a wonderful topic. We are here to celebrate innovation time real estate was all about brick, mortar and a lot of legacy. But today it is about innovation, about intent, about intelligence. And we have a generation of entrepreneurs, change makers, dreamers, disruptors who are rewriting the script and transforming the real estate landscape from what it was, reimagining homes the way they were being transacted, designed, built, even constructed. Today, you and me can go and buy a home without a broker, and it's thanks to startups like NoBroker.com. You and me can just walk into an office space and, without owning it, and that's thanks to working startups like Greenworks.com. You and me can, just rent a flat online and even find flatmates, and that's thanks to Stanza Living kind of startups. And we can, of course, own the most stunning second home destinations in any part of the country, a fraction of it through fractional ownership startups like Property Share and many others. So, real estate is no longer about land and buildings, it is about ideas and innovation. And the old formats are being reimagined by the day, the new ones are being reinvented. And we have a lot to celebrate, but a lot of gaps to be filled. So, of course, a warm welcome to each one of you on this panel. The topic, of course, is young realty entrepreneurs redefining business models through innovation and sustainability. What is the ground we will cover? I think it's important to set the expectation right so that all of us are on the same page. Let's try and give a lowdown on the key innovations that have come to the sector in the last 5 to 10 years. Let's also identify those gaping holes or gaps that still need to be addressed. And let's also look at some global best models which we could simply maybe copy paste with some customization and improvement. You are actually someone who sits at the intersection of capital, construction and consumer.
Definitely, a lot has happened in the last 5 to 10 years in the real estate industry. A lot of it, successful, some of it still work in progress. If I look at, for example, in the commercial office space, we've seen co-working, flex spaces, really become a very, very significant portion of the overall industry. Pre-COVID, we had seen that this was something that was maybe about a 10-year story. We had seen WeWork as one of the pioneers of that business, and then, in fact, most of them actually kind of really became bankrupt, during the COVID times, and then slowly and steadily there was in a way a revival, more like a phoenix moment when they all revived and actually became very, very strong players in the market.
And I think the key takeaways, co-working, REITs and fractional ownership is what you were really betting big on. Over to you, Samir, and you sit at on the quantum of data, which is today's petrol. As somebody said, data is the new oil and gas. And what is the biggest disruption that has taken in the market intelligence space? Can we predict that Donald Trump is going to build the next tower in Noida, or that a certain developer's project is going to be more successful than the other, or a certain micro market will get in better deals than the other? It's with far more certainty and accuracy today.
With respect to the B2B market, which I mean by developers, private equity funds, equity research houses, banks, NBFCs and HFCs, thanks to companies like PropEquity, they have had access to structured data, insights, analytics, where they can make informed decisions. So if you notice, we had a big debacle, from 2013 to 2018, we had many crises, developers could not execute, they oversold, yellow green, those large, big investments. Now when you see post 2018, those mistakes are not being made because there are data-driven decisions that are happening in the B2B domain. And that the NPAs are at the lowest level and the growth in, as you can see, there are now over 100 real estate developers listed in the stock markets. That was unheard of, right? So all that is happening.
Ananta, you of course are championing women's participation in real estate in a very big way, and you've always said that women bring a certain emotional intelligence. So, which are those areas where women have innovated in the real estate sector or infrastructure space? Is maybe some of the startups that you'd like to narrate stories of, or tell anything about innovations, more particularly spearheaded by women.
Hi Namrata, thank you so much for that question. As far as real estate is concerned, and as far as women are concerned, I think wherever they are, creativity comes very naturally to them. And not just that, I think by nature, we have a habit of fixing things, even things which require or do not require fixing. So automatically, if the bottles are put in a certain manner, you will go and shake it up and realign it or give it your little personal touch. Now, having said that, the same disruption happens when a woman walks into the real estate space also. So I have been on a jury on so many of these design awards and interior awards, architect awards, and there is such a refreshing perspective that women bring on the table in every which way, whether it is building materials that they use, they'll change things around completely, whether it is the practical approach that they bring, the personal touch that they bring, the refreshing change, so if everything is brown now, let's make it all grey. So that whole thing. So why is the carpet here? Why doesn't it go there? So that habit, this generation, particularly the young generation, the gusto with which they are done. Because whether it is at home or it is in their social life or it is in their workplace, the amount of encouragement that they are getting to speak up and to question the norm, so that is changing everything. So the minute you have a woman on the board or you have the woman on the, including even Rena. I mean, so many of these settlements are being done by women, as you would know. Also data, primary data, I think Mudassir's team, whenever I call, I'm only speaking to women, Mudassir. They are doing such a fantastic job.
Venkat, RERA, to my mind, is the biggest innovation of the century. I mean, innovation is not just about design and technology, it is a lot about compliance and processes, right? So what is the efficiency? Of course, some of the transparency, the accountability and all of that, but what is the efficiency, if you can not just think in that direction, that RERA has brought into the sector?
One thing is for sure that RERA has been acknowledged as innovation, which is in itself is a big thing, because whenever one talks of compliances, one talks of legal field, usually there is a tendency to believe that there is nothing here and you go to straight away. Probably there is no innovation involved in the legal field. That's not the case. And RERA, yes, has got a big change, definitely, in terms of bringing in credibility. Now, the credibility has come forward simply, primarily because of you said the compliances, how these compliances are happening, to what extent there is a discipline that has come in. So the transparency forced, it was already started happening quite some time on, because the markets had seen such a downturn that one of the factors that probably the industry as such, man will agree with me, realized that more and more information should be out and more transparency should be there to communicate with the consumer to have a say. So therefore, already builders were moving there. One thing that RERA has brought in is a self-discipline. Yes, some have different views about it, or there could be shortcomings, or there could be a kind of a situation where we are moving a little slow. These complaints can be there, but definitely one thing has happened is the simple transparency that was already coming into the market with this self-discipline of the which itself I think is a big change that we or otherwise the markets have.
Namaste everyone, welcome to this session. And Ms. Namrata rightly mentioned in the last panel that real estate is no longer about land and buildings, it is about innovation and growth. And how true is that? And it is very relevant to what we are discussing in this panel, which is about the emerging asset classes. The real estate today is not just about projects for the residential sectors or the limited building capacities that we have seen. It is about the needs that are arising today and now. And we are seeing the coming of flexible office spaces, student housing, co-living spaces, all of these which are emerging asset classes. To begin our session, I will begin with a very forward-looking approach. And my first question is to you, Mr. Nado. How do you see these asset classes driving the growth in the next 5 to 10 years?
Thank you, Anuradha. I think we have been talking about alternative assets in the last few years, and especially in the context of emerging asset classes. When we say emerging, obviously we are not talking about the core asset classes of be it residential, office, retail, industrial warehousing. I think what needs to be seen is that in the last few years, there have been structural shifts on the ground, be it especially on the occupier side, on the consumer side, on the investor side. And when we talk about structural shifts, these structural shifts could be are in the form of changes in demographic patterns, technological, digital revolution, focus on sustainability. I think the whole perspective of urban migrants, be it in the form of students who travel to pursue education or people who travel to different places for work. I think so. These underlying drivers are important because emerging asset classes of co-living, including student housing, we are talking about flex spaces, we are talking about data centers. These hinge on these emerging patterns which is coming up in the market.
Yes, Mr. Nal, spoken like a true research head. You have mentioned that data centers are going to be one of the most driving forces when we see asset classes that are out of the norm, that are not traditional. So, when we are talking about asset classes, these represent not just design and convenience, but the way we live and want to work. That is what they are driving, that is what they are coming from. So, it is very important that we look towards consumer preferences as well. Samantha sir, how do you see consumer preferences driving this sector and driving the demand as well?
Well, thank you for this question. I think there is a drastic shift in consumer preferences now, and what we are observing now is this shift has to be matched with the commensurate supply, right? Now, the basic thing is why this shift is happening. So let's throw some numbers. I think Vimal threw many numbers. I will try to throw some numbers. Like, for example, what are the drivers of this, co-living, flex? Mainly I'm focusing on co-living. Now, the point is, if you see in India, migration is a big one, right? So the latest data, official data that we had on migration was 2017 economic survey. So which talks about 2011 to 16, annual 9 million migrants annually, interstate. So if I take that as a benchmark, today probably we have annualized 11 to 12 million migrants. And this includes, students, employees, everyone. Now that's one part. Second, very important is there is an uneven distribution of employment opportunities, right? So that's why migration happens. And as well, the institutional, footprint. There is a huge uneven distribution. Now, if you analyze the migration, 50 to 60% as per our estimate is in the age group of 17 to 35 years. So that means chunk of the migration is new age, whatever you call. Gen Z, millennial, Gen Z now, Gen Alpha, right? So their preferences are different. So if you ask me about their preferences, and I have some Gen Zs at home, it's more of experience than ownership. So ownership is experience. That's a major shift that we are seeing.
So my next question is one of the younger looking faces on the panel, and who better you to answer this, Utkarsh. Co-working space, this is about co-working space. It has moved from the startups wanting to have a co-working space for the youngers or whatever the demographic is of the company, and the trend has shifted to the mainstream corporations as well. So how do you think this is going to drive the co-working space in the years ahead?
Can I interject?
Sorry?
Younger and we are young, right?
Yes, sir.
Amongst the panelists, I was thinking I might be the youngest by age, not by the mindset. But fair. Thank you so much for the question. I think the other panelists have quite rightly addressed it. I think to sum up the trend that's happening is everyone has more bucks to pay. The younger audience is willing to live on EMIs and has more money to pay. Wants more convenience, which is why the trend is coming in real estate. In case of flex, luckily, earlier that was the younger trend that was there, that was startups that was driving it, which wanted more ease, and that's why flex was booming with startups. It still is. Startups still contribute a large chunk of the demand. But yes, corporates have picked up. So it's not like corporates don't want the same ease. They see flex as a value prop from a standpoint of giving them ease of not locking in their capital for long term. Their cash flows become much more easier. You've got flexible terms, you can increase, decrease size. You've got a lot of corporates which are hybrid, which are there in tier 2 cities, tier 1 cities. They want to set up a 50-seater office, a 100-seater office. So all of that has become easier with flex, which is why a lot of the corporates are choosing flex right now. So if you look at the splits, about 37% of the demand is still startups, but sorry, I'm throwing numbers in front of the research folks here. 37% is startups and 35% is corporates, and most of the corporates come up in the last 3 years post-COVID. So they have adapted to flex very fast and growing very fast. IT, ITS, the key driver in commercial is higher as a contributor in flex as compared to in commercial right now.
Moving forward, my next question is regarding luxury housing. So, post-COVID, we have seen a rise in demand for luxury housing, and that demand has sustained. It has not gone down. Shaleen sir, how do you see this demand being sustained for the years to come, and what is the investor confidence in this luxury segment?
Thank you for the question, Anuradha. So, firstly, I think we need to decipher why this happened after COVID. So, if you look at the eras, I would divide it into two parts: pre-COVID and post-COVID. Now, who were buying homes before pre-COVID? Pre-COVID, it was largely the end users investing into residential assets to stay. It was largely that. Post-COVID, we had the investors making foray into residential assets, and a lot of investments were coming in because of the capital appreciation which happened over the last 3-4 years. A lot of equity investors also pulled in their money into residential assets because obviously the capital appreciation was very high. Additionally, a lot of non-resident Indians looking at the economy, looking at the robust economy that the country has, and the fact that the returns were very good, started investing into residential assets in India. Thirdly, we continue to have the end users, and when we have end users, they demand things, especially the high net worth individuals.